Is it recording now, Sherry? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, welcome everyone to our first call, open call under wave 6 of the programme. We're delighted to be launching today. Thank you for all your patience in waiting for this first call. Sherry, if you could go to the agenda and then we'll... Yeah, it's really good to have so many people here as well. Thank you so much. So in this session today, what we'll be doing is we'll be outlining for you the aims and objectives of the programme and for wave 6 of the programme. I'll be talking through the kind of skills bootcamp models, what they could look like. We'll touch on learner eligibility, how we make payments to yourselves if you were successful with your application. I'll talk a little bit around the support we can give you with quality assurance and Ofsted readiness. And then the most important bit, I'll present to you what our Call 1 offer looks like, so the lots that you'll be able to apply for. We'll discuss a few sort of key takeaways, main things to kind of take away from this session, and I'll go over the sort of provisional timeline so you know when you need to apply by and when you're likely to get a decision by. And then at the end, that'll be the time we'll open up to questions. We won't do questions as we go through, so if you do have any, if you could pop them into the chat, and then Sherry and I will then go through those once we've been through the gone through the agenda. We'll have a good amount of time then to answer any questions that you have. Any questions and answers we do give to provide today will be published on our FAQ document on our website. It's just to let you know. Okay, Sherry. Thank you. So the aims and objectives of the Skills Bootcamps programme. I know a lot of you are already kind of familiar with it, but Skills Bootcamps are all about addressing the needs of employers in our region and the wider economy. What we aim to do through Skills Bootcamps is to deliver targeted intervention that meets short and medium term skills demands in the region. Skills bootcamps are quite unique because they're not just there to just train the individual, but they also offer that support, that wraparound support into new jobs or into enhanced roles within their existing organisation, or they will be supporting a freelancer or a self-employed individual to obtain new work contracts. So that's very much the key thing about a bootcamp. It's not just about you delivering the training, it's also about you delivering that support that they need, that wraparound support to move the individual onto a new opportunity. Skills bootcamps are a maximum of 16 weeks in duration, so they can't be longer than 16 weeks. They need to be a minimum of 60 guided learning hours, and guided learning hours are contact hours. So that's the kind of the time that the learner has with a tutor or a mentor. When you read our specification and guidance documents, you'll see more detail around what can be classed as a contact hour, but it is that 60 guided learning hours, and that could be, that doesn't need to be in person, it could be online, but it is that kind of direct contact with somebody. Across the board is 60 hours other than for our practical driving courses, and you will see later on that we have lots around HGV and bus driver training, so they can be a minimum of 20 guided learning hours. Skills bootcamps are for adults aged 19 plus, and the programme supports those that are self-employed, those that are employed looking for career change, or those who are employed looking to upskill within their existing organisation. We also support unemployed individuals to find opportunities, or those returning to work after a break. I will touch upon this a couple of times during this session, but even though at a programme level we support all these different learner types, you will see in the specifications that particular lots are targeted at particular learner types, so it's really important that you read that thoroughly. So even at a programme level, it's open to all learner types, but at a lot level, when you're applying, do read the specification, because some of them do say, they specifically are only for those, upskilling by their employer, or they're targeting the unemployed to move into new positions. So do read that thoroughly. Another really key thing about skills bootcamps is they must be flexible. So they must fit around existing commitments. A lot of the individuals doing these courses will already have commitments through their everyday work. So we're looking for kind of proposals that really think about that, the types of learners that you're targeting, and how you've designed it so it can be flexible, so they can actually work and attend the training alongside that. So we'll be looking at sort of blended approaches, plus maybe some face-to-face, some online. In some circumstances, the training does need to be face-to-face, and that's absolutely fine, and it needs to be in some cases. But but do start think about, you might be thinking about like the hours that it's delivered, or the number of days, or like I said, sort of those sort of blended models work really well. So the Skills Bootcamp model. So you could be on the call today because you're an employer in the region who's looking to deliver a bespoke solution for your employees, because you have a skills gap in your company. So you want to train your own employees. So you could be an employer on this call. And if you have the training capacity to deliver the Skills Bootcamp yourself, you could apply as the lead provider, and we would fund you to deliver that directly. Or you could be next one, Sherry. Oh, you could be a training provider on the call who's looking to work with a particular employer or a few employers to deliver bespoke training solutions for those employers. And that would be where sort of that training capacity doesn't lie within the company. So you're going to deliver the training for that organisation. Or you could be a training provider, and what you're trying to develop here is a sort of more generic skills bootcamp. Again, you'll be working with employers in the region to understand what that looks like, because it needs to lead to that job opportunity or that new role. But what you'll be doing is sort of delivering a more generic skills bootcamp that you're going to open up to employees from different companies, perhaps, or kind of the general public to attend. Again, as I briefly mentioned, something really different for Wave 6 and really important that you kind of consider is that the specification, and this year that's called an application document. I'll talk you through that later, but it will define those allowable learner types for the lot that you're applying for. So that is really key. Skills bootcamps must be free to learners. So that's just something to bear in mind. The learner must never be charged for the bootcamp. But where you are developing a bootcamp for an employer to upskill their own employees, or you have an individual enrolling with the intention of staying with their own company, there is a 10% or 30% cost to the employer. So 10% for an SME or 30% for a large organisation, and that's kind of 10% or 30% of the cost per learner, that the employer would be expected to pay. So really do think about that when you're sort of costing up your skills bootcamp or your project. Think about sort of how much that would then cost the employer. Okay, so in adult for learner eligibility, this is if you've been working with skills bootcamps around the country and different MCAs or through the national contracts, you might see slightly different rules around where the learner can live, but this is because it's something that we can kind of determine as a Mayoral combined authority. So what we say for our programme is that adults can live outside of the LEP geographical area if they are working or seeking to work in our region. So we're not restricting it to only residents within our area. What we're recognising here is the real benefits of people coming to work in our area. So if you are running a skills bootcamp, you can enrol people that live outside. I mean, it needs to be within a reasonable distance and somewhere they would commute to, but you can enrol individuals outside of the region, and that as long as you've had that conversation and they've committed that they are enrolling because they want to gain a job within our region. Or if you're working with an employer who wants to upskill all their employees, if we know those employees are already working here because the employer needs to be based here, so then we're not too worried if they live outside the region. So that's how it works in terms of location. And just to remind you, the LEP region, that's that includes North Somerset, so that's South Gloucestershire, Bristol, Bath and North East Somerset and North Somerset. So that's the area we look at for the Skills Bootcamp programme. Adults need to be 19 plus. There's slightly different rules on when you look at that at the point they turned 19, depending on your when they're starting the boot camp. I won't go into that at the moment, but that's all in the specification and guidance if you read that through. Learners must have the right to work in the UK. They must meet residency requirements, and you mustn't actively recruit learners that live outside of England, although there are a few exceptions around that. If you have an employer in Bristol, for example, and you've got some individuals that are kind of commuting in from Wales, they'd be looked at a case-by-case basis, but you wouldn't be actively recruiting people outside of England. Next page, Sherry. So payment milestones. If you were successful and we offer you a grant offer, we will pay you when learners reach certain milestones. So the first payment is made when a learner completes 14 qualifying days on the course and has received a minimum of 10 guided learning hours. That's not to say they don't have to have attended 14 different sessions. What we do is we count from day one, we count on 14 days. And if that learner is still on course, and they've had a minimum of 10 guided learning hours, then you can make your first claim for payment. And that's at 40%. The only exception is slightly more for HGV, but all the other skills boot camps is 40%. We would pay you on completion of that 14 days on course. The second payment you then receive when your learner has completed the course. And what's really important with Skills Bootcamps is the definition of completing. So a learner has not completed a Skills Bootcamp until they have completed the training and received either the offer of an interview, if that's relevant, or if they're a self-employed individual, we'd ask you to have developed a self-employment or business plan with that individual, or if there was someone upskilling via their own employer to remain in that company, we'd be looking for sort of an offer from that employer that they are going to offer their employee a new or sort of enhanced role. So yeah, that's really understanding what the definition of completion is in the Skills Bootcamp. So once they have completed, you can then claim your second payment of 30%. And then that third payment is paid to you on when a learner has a successful outcome. So that's a kind of a progression onto a new job or an enhanced role, or for the self-employed that they have secured a new or enhanced work contract. There's a little note down there about the individualised learner record. So that's really important for Wave 6. To date, anyone that's been working with us on Skills Bootcamps knows that for the Mayoral Combined Authority areas, data has been sent to us via Excel data sheets. From April, we will be using the ILR, which I know some of you are familiar with and some not so much. Please don't worry though, if you're not using the ILR, we are working very hard behind the scenes to develop training material for you. And we would be running sort of training sessions on it. So that was just to make you aware that we are moving to that from April. And the way we make those payments I've talked about there is upon receipt of valid and complete data and any sort of supporting evidence we need from you. Next slide. Yeah, so I wanted to give you sort of a bit of an idea of the kind of quality assurance we carry out and the kind of Ofsted support we give you. So Skills Bootcamp providers are inspected by Ofsted using the evaluation criteria set out in the Further Education and Skills Inspection Handbook. So broadly, what Ofsted are inspecting, lost my slide, Sherry. Yeah, so broadly, they're inspecting sort of the intent, the implementation, the impact of the Skills Bootcamp. All new providers receive an Ofsted monitoring visit within 18 months of starting delivery. Most of our providers that we've been working with to date have all been through this process already, and they've had no problems at all. So But what we do is we have a quality assurance officer on our team, Stuart, and he's fantastic. He's really experienced in this, and he will really, if you are new to this, he will support you ahead of that monitoring visit. We've got lots and lots of templates and things we can provide you with, and you'll get loads of support from our team. In addition to Ofsted, the DFE can come out and quality assurance check your bootcamp, although they don't seem to have done that much in the last sort of year. But there is they could come out if they, so it's just really to let you know. But most of sort of the quality checks that would be done within our team here at the West of England Combined Authority. We do tend to come out to any sort of new providers who are not so used to Skills Bootcamp, and it's very much in a supportive way. That's all it is, really. We just come out to sort of observe and just give you any guidance and support we can give you. We have regular progress meetings with you. So if you are grant funded, we will, have those monthly with you. We have 2 relationship officers on our team that you'll be working with. We do sort of evidence audits and things like that. Satisfaction surveys, that's really important. So we do send surveys to like the employers and learners that you're working with, and just to find out how, really kind of mainly to look at sort of a programme level and how things are going and anything we can improve on. And we do give you KPIs that we will be monitoring you against. So that would all be outlined in your grant offer letter. It is in the application paperwork as well, so you can see in there the kind of things we sort of monitor you against, but it's kind of a lot around the sort of payment milestones I talked about. So like how many learners have started, how many completed, how many progressed, and then sort of wider things like making sure you don't have too many dropouts, people dropping out, and those kind of things. And as I said there, provision of templates, documents, we have all of that. So all those things that can support you. And we do try and encourage providers to connect with one another. So we are hoping to run some sessions later in the year when we bring all our providers together to network, to share ideas, and to be able to kind of support one another. Next slide, please, Jo. So we'll move on to the Call One offer. So what we will be going out for from today for applications, and you will have 1 month to apply. So the first area in our Call One offer is professional services. If you go onto our website, you'll see it listed as professional services, but it's mainly sort of around leadership and management and business management. One thing is a little bit different this year is we used to very much for leadership and management just have a sort of generic leadership and management lot that people applied under. What we're trying to do this year is go a bit more targeted against sector areas where we've really identified a need for leadership and management training. So you'll see there that there's going to be lots you can apply for leadership and management training related to education, related to the creative sector, for the construction sector, and for engineering and manufacturing. There is also a leadership and management other lot, so that's where you can apply for any other sort of leadership and management training you want to do. The maximum cost per learner for all of those leadership and management courses is £4,000. That will be written into the specification, and that's a guide, really. It's the maximum you can apply for. Obviously, we expect you to cost it to what it really will cost, and you'll be asked to break that down in your financial annex. And also, like I said, mentioned before, do think about what that 10% or 30% contribution would look like for that employer. The total funding amounts available for those lots are on the screen, but you'll be able to find those in the specifications. And there is another sort of more specific one on there for green tech businesses. So this is leadership business management training for green tech businesses in the region. So again, it's linked to the kind of leadership management side, but it's a little bit more specific. So yeah, that's something different for wave 6 that we're going out for. Next screen, please. So we've got a couple of lots in Call 1 linked to construction in the built environment. There is more around construction shared in our Call 2, which we'll launch in a few weeks' time. But for this call, we have there's a lot there for CAD and BIM. So that's upskilling in CAD and BIM technologies. 215,000 there, and maximum cost of £5,000 per learner. We have a lot there for, which is called biodiversity net gain. And this skills, what we're looking for here is kind of skills boot camps that explain, like teach, they will explain to learners like the legislative framework and how developments can protect and enhance like nature, how to integrate biodiversity net gain into planning, and it's sort of like that design and this kind of design and construction practices around biodiversity net gain. There's 240,000 available in that lot, and £4,000 as the maximum cost per learner. The next one is something new, that's new for Wave 6, and this is a lot specific for AI training. So this is bespoke training solutions for employers in the region. So we're looking for training providers to work with employers to look at how artificial intelligence could support their processes, their businesses, and to kind of roll that training out to their employees. There's £480,000 in that lot, and a maximum of £6,000 per learner. Digital marketing, that's back in again for Wave 6. We didn't have, there wasn't in scope for Wave 5, but yeah, just to let you know, that is back in for Wave 6. 240,000 available for that lot. And that's really targeted at sort of self-employed individuals, or those or companies wishing to sort of upskill a member of staff in digital marketing techniques. We have a digital technical lot. There's a larger amount against that, just over £1 million, and this covers areas such as data science, data engineering, cloud, cyber, software development. Yeah, we've the key thing for this year, we have had when you read the spec, you'll see it's been very much written about really making sure we get the right learners onto these courses, and making sure we're really looking for bids that really do map them through directly into jobs in the region. It's really important, although they're all skills we need in the region. We do recognise, you know, the challenges sometimes these individuals have in getting the interview, getting that job within 6 months of the course. So it's all about making sure the right individuals on the course, they receive the right training, and that you know there really are those kind of links with those employers, and the course has really been aligned to those jobs that are there. So that's a digital technical lot. And then we have 2 more lots for digital, and it's all around workplace skills. There's an intermediate level workplace skills lot and an advanced level workplace skills. I won't read out, there's a long list of things that kind of fall under intermediate and advanced, but that will be all in the specification, so do read through that. Moving on. So it's quite a few of these. There's 25 of these lots. So health and care, we've recognised as sort of something we really need in the region at the moment, that our employers are lacking us, and they're telling us that they need these mental health leads within their companies. So we're looking for skills boot camps that train people to, in mental health and workplace well-being, and it's very much targeted at those sort of somebody being a lead within that company. So we've got £120,000 available in that lot. Supported employment. So this is all around training people to give them the skills they need to support people with complex health barriers into meaningful employment, to stay in meaningful employment. There's a lot going on around supported employment in our region. It's really key. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to train enough people in the region that they understand how to support these people. So there's 105,000 available for skills boot camps and supported employment. So moving on to logistics. We have 2 lots there. They're around electric vehicles. So the first one is specific to buses. So that's kind of upskilling the mechanics who work on the electric and hybrid buses in the region. And the second lot is more around sort of upskilling mechanics in, on electric vehicle cars and things like that. We have a lot this year for bus driver training. And also for HGV driver training. And you can see the amounts on the screen there. Early years, there is 1 lot in Call One, and that's come from our nurseries and childcare settings in the region. They tell us that they need to be able to train individuals in Senko and mental health. There used to be funding available, it isn't available anymore. And so that has very much come from the nurseries themselves and kind of the unitary authorities we work with, that there is a need there to upskill people in Senko and mental health. So there's £40,000 available for boot camps in that area. Next, please, Sherry. Education and training. So we're looking for skills boot camps that include the award in education and training. And this is for people that want to teach in FE colleges or in a unitary authority areas, or perhaps in the NHS or the police. So so that's skills boot camps with that education, so that award in education and training in them, and £100,000 for that lot. We then have a lot that's for ESOL learners. So that's the CELTA qualification. And this is for those that want a career in teaching. So it's a skills boot camp that will have that qualification in it, and obviously all the wider wraparound support to move those individuals into those roles in teaching. Something quite unique we're doing for Wave 6 this year is we're looking at running boot camps in vocational ESOL with pathways into either health, construction, logistics, or warehousing. So that'd be really important, well, like with all of them, to kind of work very closely with those employers in health industry, construction, logistics, and warehousing in the region to kind of create that pathway for these individuals from the training into the course. Perhaps it could, with a lot of these, you could think about things like work placements during the skills boot camp or anything like that sort of. So there's 600,000 in that lot, and maximum of £3,000 per learner. And then we have 2 lots that are supporting the creative industry, so creative production and TV and film. Do read the specifications for those. They're fairly broad into what that can include. And the amounts there available on the screen. Next page, Sherry. So that's all the lots. Don't worry too much, you probably won't take that all in, but you'll be able to watch the recording back later. They'll all be listed on our website, and there will be 1 application form for each lot. So this year, when you go onto the webpage, there won't be a specification. You'll just have something called an application document, and it'll be titled by the particular lot, and it's got everything in it. So the application document, 1 per lot, will have, at the beginning of the document, it will give you the project requirements and the aims and objectives of the lot. So do read that very thoroughly. You'll then go into the second section, which is all around the funding rules. And again, those are specific to the lot. So do read through that thoroughly. It will explain to you the funding that's available for that lot. It will explain to you what the maximum grant funding amount is, which I've obviously just touched on. As mentioned earlier, it will tell you which learner types you can within scope for that lot. And then it will go over things like the learner eligibility that we just touched on, and other rules around, charging, payments, curriculum planning. So do read the funding rules really, really carefully before applying. And then at the back of that application document, that's where you'll find your application form. So it's got all your instructions of how to apply. It talks through the evaluation criteria that we use and how we allocate funding. it's got a series of gateway criteria questions. So these are questions that you need to pass in order for your application to, obviously you submit all the answers at the same time, but we, as a project team, we will be looking at the gateway criteria first to make sure you meet all of those. And then assuming you do, we would go on, you know, our independent panel would then go on to review your responses to your quality questions. And the quality questions in the application form, they're around areas of project planning, value for money, and this will include, so you'll be asked for a statement of why your project is value for money, but you'll also, as part of that, you'll be asked to fill in a financial annex. And on that financial annex, you will need to break down the costs of your project. So start thinking about that. You'll be able to see, you'll see the template this afternoon when you go onto the website. They'll ask you to break down the cost of your project and how that breaks down as the total. Say the cost per learner you've worked out of £3,200, which, you know, that on that financial annex you'll be breaking down the calculation of how you've got to that. Employer engagement, we'll be asking you around those employers that you've engaged with, how have you understood the need here, what employers have you been working with, which employers will be supporting your bootcamp, will they be coming in to do talks to learners, are they helping develop the curriculum, which employers are going to offer interviews, or which you know, or where are those jobs lined up, or which employers are wanting to use the bootcamp to upskill their own learners. There's a whole question around that, yeah, we're looking for as much detail as possible. Learner enrolment, so you'll be asked around sort of your learner enrolment processes, and then your sort of like support, your wraparound support processes for your learners. You'll be asked around how you can ensure sort of learners do progress onto new jobs or enhanced jobs, or for self-employed to get new work contracts. You'll be asked around your kind of quality of provision, so how you ensure that you deliver quality provision, what are your methods for doing that. And then there'll be a question in there around social value for you to respond to. Next, please. So as well as completing the application document, which I mentioned is going to be one on the website per each lot, you'll also have to complete some appendices, as well as returning a letter from your Chief Finance Officer. This is all written in the application document, so don't worry, it lists out what we expect you to send in, but it basically is going to be the application form, which is the back of the application document, the letter from the Chief Financial Officer, and then these 4 annexes here, appendices. So there's the financial annex, Appendix A, which I talked about. So this is where you're breaking down your costs for your project. There's a due diligence form that you need to fill in. That will ask on there kind of copies of accounts and things like that. So do read that thoroughly and provide anything it asks from there. Scheme of work is Appendix C. I think last year we called this a curriculum plan. It's more of a kind of an outline. So it's a scheme of work, an outline of what, you know, what you expect to be included in the boot camp. On, you know, week 1 we will include training in X. I mean, we understand that sort of it will evolve, but it's giving us the idea up front of what that scheme of work would look like. And there's an employer letter of support template that will be on our website. We haven't had this before. Usually we say to you, it says in the application document, normally it says obtain employer letters of support. This year there's actually a template for that. So do download a copy of the template, and you'll need to ask the employers you're working with to fill that out. Next, please. So all the application documents and all the appendices will be on our webpage by 5 p.m. today. There's a link there to the webpage. I'll ask Sherry to kind of pop that into the chat again. Yeah, and just to reiterate, please do read that application document really thoroughly before applying. Yeah, and really remember that those funding rules are specific to the lot that you're applying for. So yeah, do read those thoroughly. Next, please. So I just wanted to summarize a few sort of key things to take away before we move into kind of questions and answers. So your application does need to be employer centric. So be thinking about that all the way through. Training is always free to learners. That's something to remember. but employers do have to contribute, and that's the co-funded 10% or 30% contribution. Training is no longer than 16 weeks. There's that minimum of 60 guided learning hours or 20 for our driving courses. Any applications for funding will need to be well evidenced, with the need clearly identified. So do think about how you can evidence that. We are looking for applications to offer value for money. And again, as touched on before, do think about how much that would also be costing the employer. This is really important. It'd be really important. It's important that your applications demonstrate impact to learnings from previous Skills Bootcamp delivery or other similar provision. You will be asked about that. So yeah, do think about the kind of impact the other Skills Bootcamps you've run have had, or learnings from where things haven't quite worked, or if you haven't delivered Skills Bootcamps before, you can link it to kind of a similar provision that you have delivered. As I mentioned, you will be required to submit letters of support from employers, and this year we're asking you to use the kind of appendix template that will be on our website. Learner support is vital, absolutely. Like we said, a bootcamp is not just about the training, it's about all the support the learner gets around that. So do think about that when you're submitting your application, including like how you're going to support people that maybe the course isn't right for them, or they withdraw, or they're not successful at the guaranteed interview you've arranged for them. So there's all that sort of all these different scenarios and how you're going to support the learner. As a final note on there about do not underestimate the administrative process. That's linked to sort of when you're costing your project. Yeah, it's just not to underestimate. I mean, we ask for, like a lot of projects, you know, we do ask for quite a lot of data from you and evidence and things for quality assurance purposes. So yeah, just do think about that sort of admin support that you might need to sort of administer this when you're costing your projects. Something to think about. Next, please. So a provisional timeline. So obviously the call opens today. It opened at noon today, and obviously we're committed to the paperwork being there by 5 o'clock today. We're hoping it will be earlier than that. Tomorrow we will be running applying for Skills Bootcamps tools and tips webinar. So I hope a lot of you have registered for that. If you haven't, there's still plenty of time to. So if Sherry, if you could just pop the link in the chat of how people register for the webinar tomorrow, and that will really help you in how to complete that application document. The call will close on the 7th of April, so you'll need to make sure your applications are submitted to us by noon on the 7th of April. Our current timeline is that we will have assessed the applications by the 18th of April. We then have a process where we go out to you for clarifications if we need them. So we feel that will probably conclude around the 28th of April. We would get those clarifications back. Decisions will be made on the 9th of May. So what we do, as soon as we've made the decisions are made, we send you a decision notice. I mean, if you were at that point, if you proceed, you would be proceeding at risk because you won't have the actual grant offer letter. But we do tell you on the day that the decision is made, so you know what has been approved, whether you've been approved or not for funding. And then it normally takes a few weeks for those grant offers to come to you. It's just a bit of a kind of governance process internally of getting them signed and sealed. So by the end of May, you'll get the grant offer letter, but you should know at the beginning of May if you've been successful in your application. And lastly, it was just to let you know that we have got a second call, which has got looking at other areas, and that's opening on the 31st of March. So please keep an eye on our website for details of that. The links that Sherry will be popping into chat will take you to the page anyway, where you can register for that. I don't know if the event is on there at the moment, Sherry, but if not, it will be the same page where you can register to attend that event.
Call 2 is not yet live to register, but that'll be ready later this week. But we'll send out comms to confirm that to everybody.
Yeah, you're all on our mailings as well, so you'll have been receiving these email communications. So like Sherry said, that will come through on that as well, so you'll have that on there to register for the 31st of March. I think that's it, Sherry, isn't it? Check the last slide. Yeah, so we're just going to so it's just going to questions and answers now. Sherry, if you want to take the presentation down, we'll just have a look at the any questions that are in the chat and work through them.
Yeah, just bear with me. Video on, so you've got face to the voice. So we've got a few questions. So is the total funding available overall or per application provider?
So in the spec where it says on that little table I showed you where it said total funding available, that was the total funding available for that specific lot. So as a provider, and that'll be in the application document, it will, so say it says 200,000 available for I don't know, leadership and management training, construction sector. You could apply as a provider for full 200,000, or you could apply for, 50,000 of it. That's just the maximum you can apply for.
The next question is it still 100 guided learning hours for digital, or is it now 60?
It's now 60. So the government, the DfE announced a policy change on that for wave 6. So it's 60 guided learning hours across the board now.
The next question is directly about CAD. So if a provider wanted to deliver CAD for creative industries, do they still apply under the construction route?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be for CAD for the creative industries, construction route. Not too sure on that one.
Or creative digital?
Yeah, there isn't a creative digital lot. There's a creative general. I think I haven't got the actual detail of the specification in front of me, so I don't want to say either way off the top of my head. Can I take that away and just confirm? I have to read the specification clearly.
Yeah, that's fine. That question.
Yeah, we can then see if it would fit in the construction one, or whether it fits under. It's definitely one. You've got a creative lot there, so if it doesn't fit under CAD, the one under construct, you can apply under creative. So yeah, let's get back to you on that, Nick, I think.
Yeah, that is Nick. So for green tech business growth lot, is this open to all learner outcomes?
Green tech business lot. Bear with me a second. This is targeting the self-employed or those upskilling via their employer.
Okay, the next one is, NCFE have a range of mental health awareness qualifications along with specific workplace health champions qualifications. I don't think that's a question. I think that's more of a letting us know. Somebody's interested in the remit for the AI Skills Bootcamp training in particular, deadline for submissions, what portal you use, and the success criteria are. You've covered most of that in the session, I believe.
So what was that question again, Shelley?
So they're interested in AI Skills Bootcamp training, and what is the deadline for submissions, and what portal we use, and what the success criteria are. So
AI, yeah. So deadline for submissions. So obviously open today. Deadline is noon on the 7th of April. The criteria is all outlined in the application documents. I suggest just going onto our website this afternoon, finding the document for AI and really reading that criteria in there. We've obviously got the session tomorrow, the tools and tips webinar on how to apply. So that'd be really, really worth attending tomorrow to help with that. So is there any other parts of that question? I can't see the question.
I think it's also to say that what is the portal we use, but it's to just to confirm that we're not currently using a procurement portal. This is all through grant funding. So you just need to go onto our webpage. Actually, the documents are currently live now. So I've just put the link to that on the chat, on the bottom of the chat there. So go back to the other questions. Just a second, I've got to go back up to the top of them. What is your expectation for employer letters where there is a course designed for self-employed?
So the employer letter of support it's not just around so it's not just around employers that might want to be upskilling so if someone's self-employed, they're still going to be working with they're still going to be working with businesses in the region, aren't they? So the training that you're giving that self-employed individual needs to lead to them getting more business and more sort of work contracts and things like that. So kind of like still having that employer support of that training does align with what businesses need. I think that's probably how the letter, the template, I think is set up really well, so kind of helps guide you on what we're looking for. So do have a look at the template. But yeah, it's not just about employers wanting to use the bootcamp to upskill their own employees, about showing that there are businesses that need these skills, companies that need these skills in the region. It's all around that as well, and and how those businesses might help with those skills, because maybe there's employers that might want to be able to come into the Skills Bootcamp to offer advice to these self-employed individuals. They might come and do talks for those self-employed learners on that course about how to grow their business and things like that. So that would be an employer coming in and offering their support. But yeah, do have a look at the template. It should make more sense when you read through that.
It does, and it gives, if an employer has supported you in the generation of the course content in any way, so it includes all of that as well. Okay, so the next question along is following on from the previous question, do we have to have employers funding if all attendees are self-employed?
Yes, again, have a look at the application document and the funding rules in it. If the lot that you're applying for is open to self-employed individuals and perhaps those being upskilled by employers, you can choose how you design your bootcamp. You might design to only open up to self-employed. That's absolutely fine. In which case you wouldn't have any employers funding, so that wouldn't be relevant. So yeah, I think it's just about reading the spec and understanding which learner types are allowable, and then yeah, if it's list self-employed, you can make it your course purely for the self-employed. That's absolutely fine.
Okay. Another quick question about tomorrow's webinar. Is it going to be recorded? And the answer to that, it will be yes, and the recording will be available on our webpage. I've also posted the link to register for that event on this chat, as well as I've also put the link to the webpage, our webpage on there, because all the documentation is actually live now. So next question is, are you looking for geographic spread of boot camps across the region?
With that one, it's not specific, as in there's no specific questions that sort of say you need to do that. But there are questions around learner enrollment, and it will talk about how you ensure like wide engagement and across the region. So if you're developing a boot camp that reaches a lot more individual, obviously put that all in, because that's will help with that sort of question, how you're reaching lots of different areas. But obviously ideally we'll hope we'll get a good geographic spread. We do that by sort of who we engage with and all the pre-engagement work we're doing across the region, but there isn't really a specific question around that. But do obviously bring that do think about that. If you're able to sort of locate your boot camp in a way that's accessible to more people across the region, or that's only a positive. So yeah, that's
okay. Kate from Moody is asking, can you please define the digital sector workplace skills? So
is this where we have the intermediate and advanced? Yeah, so we've got a lot for workplace skills intermediate and workplace skills advanced. So intermediate skills are things like sort of Google Workspace, Excel, Teams, basic data analysis, using cloud-based storage, safe handling of data, things like OneDrive, Google Drive, SharePoint, kind of those sort of generic workplace skills that people need to have. That's the intermediate level. And then the lot, which is workplace skills advanced, would touch on things like cloud infrastructure management, leading organizational change with digital tools. So things like Microsoft, got a long list here: Power BI, Tableau, Python, SQL, GDPR tools, data ethics. There's a long list of things that kind of we think fall under sort of advanced skills. But again, it's not a complete list. Do read the specs. It'll give you some ideas of what sort of intermediate level and what's advanced. But yeah, and with that one, that's really about working with those companies in the region and seeing what their employees need.
Okay, so Richard Brown says, apologies if he's missed this, but are there expectations around how many employers offer support per bootcamp? E.g., is one large employer enough if they will be reskilling existing employees, rather than getting letters from 3 smaller employers to hire new startups / upskill?
Sorry, just apologies, Sherry. My screen went black. So can you repeat the question, please?
Are there expectations around how many employers offer support per bootcamp? E.g., is one large employer enough if they will be reskilling existing employees, rather than getting letters from 3 smaller employers to hire new starts upskill?
It's a difficult one. There's no real it doesn't really say in the spec how many. I think it's about what you think makes sense to the application that you're submitting. And we would normally say the more support you can show, the better when it comes to kind of scoring that. So obviously we've got an independent panel, they're going to be scoring you on that employer engagement quality question. So I'm not sure, yeah, it's not necessarily the more, but making sure it covers what you're trying to do. So if you're applying for a skills bootcamp for 25 learners, and in your bootcamp you need to get interviews for 25 learners or move 25 learners into new jobs, and if you can show that you've got employers' letter of support from enough organizations to kind of make us think, oh, actually, yeah, we can see there that there would be that level of interviews or roles available, then yeah, that makes sense. But equally, if you're working very closely with one really big employer that you've got an arrangement with, who's going to sort of offer you to interview all your learners because they have more than 25 vacancies available, and they, then that's absolutely fine as well. And they could be the same employer that's coming into the mentorship. And so there's no really sort of right or wrong in terms of the numbers of letters, I suppose. It's just really, we'll be looking to make sure it covers the level of employer engagement, if that makes sense.
The next one is, if we have already gathered letters of support from employers, do we have to go back to employers to get them to recomplete letters using your template?
Yeah, I think to be consistent, you would need to do that. But hopefully it would just be a case that you can almost like copy what they sent you into it, then ask them to sign it. If that's, yeah, do have a look at the template, but you would need to do that. It does stipulate they need to be on that template, unfortunately.
Okay, if we are delivering to existing employees, can the business owner participate?
Existing employees, business owner, yes, they can participate. This is where I'm always not quite sure. You then have to work out whether they're paid through payroll, or that's where it will get. If they're paid through payroll, they class as an employee then, and then they, the company have to pay the 10% or 30%. But some business owners are already like classed as self-employed. But yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. Again, you have to understand the kind of status of that individual. Yeah, I think that's all I can really say on that one.
Yeah. The next question is, if the lots are competitive and the total funding has been overbid for, will an opportunity of negotiation to bring costs down and fund multiple suppliers be part of the process?
Lots competitive and the total funding has been overbid for. Will an opportunity to negotiate, bring costs down and fund multiple suppliers? I mean, we have a negotiation. If you read the specification, it would talk about negotiation. So Mayoral Combined Authority can decide to do that. There's lots of flexibilities. We can go into negotiations. I can't say what will happen. I don't know. I mean, but yeah, we have to. So if you read the way we allocate, so we do the independent panel will score the bids. They'll be moderated. You have to score like 50% in order to be considered. We then have to ensure we've got we also need to ensure we've got a spread of projects across the board. So it's not black and white, like all of this will go to this person they've applied for. We would have to make sure that we've got this sort of spread of projects across the region that's supporting, we're not putting all our money into the same area. So all I can really say is, yeah, we do have the flexibility to do negotiations where it is the right thing to do. Yeah, that's what I can say really.
Will the lots for solar, EV and air heat source pumps, so green energy training, be on call too?
So as it stands, Kevin, solar and so EV, that's charging points, isn't it? Yeah, so solar, EV and air source heat pumps. Yeah, at the moment, they're not in the scope for call 2. Don't think these are absolutely essential skills that are needed in our region. However, they are just not in the scope at the moment for the Skills Bootcamps Programme. And that is because there's sort of other initiatives that are looking to train individuals in these areas. It doesn't mean that they won't come back in at some point. We could end up with a third call later in the year for Skills Bootcamps, depending on how we do with allocating the funding we've got to the priority sectors that have been identified. Yeah, so what I was going to say is solar, EV and air heat source pumps, absolutely a skills priority, but they're not in the scope at the moment for this programme. This is only one funding stream that we have. So yeah, it's not in call 2 at the moment, but that isn't to say that it may not come back in at some point during the year.
Okay, thank you. We train recruiters, so sales, which lot would this fit into?
We train recruiters, sales, so which lot would I mean, it depends what the training is. I mean, I think there's obviously there's the generic leadership and management other lot. I mean, it depends what kind of skills you're if it is kind of leadership and management, project management, business management, it could potentially fit in with that. Have a good read of the spec. I can't think there's anything else. Can you, Sherry?
No, not
off the top of my head.
Professional
it depends
services.
what you're training them in, I guess, isn't it? It depends what skill is you're training.
Yeah, I mean, there may be something that would be a better fit within possibly in call 2 with professional services, but no, at the moment I don't think there's anything else. No.
Yeah, so have a look at the leadership and management one. So it's probably, it's really leadership and management digital. I don't think there's nothing specific for sales or recruiters. So I think it'd probably be those two be best having a look at.
Yeah. So the next one is, I've asked this before, but for an official answer, if we can show employer demand, can we apply for funding for skills bootcamps outside of the given lots, i.e. hospitality? Thanks.
Well, unfortunately, not. If you were to send it in, and we can't, if you apply, the problem is it won't align with the specification, and then it wouldn't get through the gateway criteria. We always want to hear about where there's employer demand for things. We always want to hear that. We're constantly collating that evidence base, which helps drive why decisions are made on what lots we go out for. I know in call 2, there's going to be a lot around the visitor economy. It could be linked to that potentially. We'd have to look at the specifications, how it fits. But yeah, I suppose the answer, unfortunately, no. If you did apply under one of the lots and it wasn't, obviously, like we said, there's leadership and management, there's things like that. So those skills can very much, needed in hospitality, so you could apply under that. But if it was something sort of more very specific to hospitality, there isn't a lot for that, so you wouldn't get through the gateway criteria. However, we would love to hear about what you're hearing from employers, because that's really important for us that we continuously collect that evidence. And like I said, even if that isn't in for call 1 or call 2, we could end up with a call 3 later in the year, depending on how we allocate that. Well, we might be looking at new areas and different things. And we also, you know, we have got wave 7 that's going to come up, you know, before we know it. So yeah, do send that over, Joe. But hopefully there might be some lots there that would support the hospitality industry, especially around sort of leadership and management training.
Yeah, to say, Joe, on the back of that, I would say I'd be the person to speak to on anything that we haven't, if it's not included in it, and there is sufficient evidence of demand, then definitely get in touch. I know that we've been speaking quite a lot to Visit West, and like Brian has already said, and other employers about within hospitality and within the visitor economy. So there will be some things coming through on call 2, most definitely. We know that there is a demand for leadership and management within hospitality as well, and that could be included in the professional services. There's leadership and management other, isn't there, Bryony? So I would say get in touch with me if you want to, so we can have a conversation about what the need is more specifically, and then I'll be able to give you a little bit more information about when we could probably expect that to come into scope for Skills Bootcamps. Will there be a call for IAG VCSE sector in the future, you think, or is there a lot this would fit in? I did not identify.
Probably needs a little bit more detail. Yeah, I mean, there's not an actual lot, but a bit more detail about what is the training that you're trying to sort of pick up here. I mean, Anna, if you want to, you feel free to kind of come onto the call and give us a bit more detail, or if not, I can pick up with Cherry, or I can pick up with you afterwards. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, I probably just need a little bit more detail. And there's not a specific lot for that, but you know, it could fit into something that we're already going out for. Yeah, so yeah, if you want to add some more detail now to the chat, please do. If not, we'll pick up with you afterwards, Anna. Oh yeah, she said she sent an email. Fantastic.
Yeah. So for the 30% employer contribution, is this split over the 3 payments, or is it upfront?
Yeah, so you will so yeah, we will just pay you kind of 70% of your cost per learner, which will, you know, will split up over the 3 payments. What you'll be doing is you'll be invoicing at the beginning of the boot camp, you'll invoice the employer for the full 30% contribution. The point where we want to see evidence of that is when you get to milestone 2, that completion payment. We won't pay that until we've seen a copy of the invoice that you've sent to the employer for the 30% contribution.
Okay. Kevin says, thank you. Could you point me in the right direction for the right funding stream? I'm guessing that related
is that for air school? Yeah, we'll pick up with you afterwards, Kevin, about that's about air source heat pumps and skills training, isn't it? Yeah, we can send you some more information about that afterwards, Kevin. It's no problem at all.
Will there be an opportunity to support TAs for schools and hospitality in call 2?
So we haven't got TAs for schools in call 2 at the moment. We have the visitor economy in call 2. It's not specifically hospitality, but you know, kind of I think there's areas within that that kind of linked. Yeah, again, it's difficult with the boot. So how it would have been worked out in terms of the boot camps funding is it's all based on the kind of the level of employer demand and need, and you know, the priority of the sectors and things like that. And like I said, if something's not in call 2, it doesn't mean that it won't come in later in the year into a third call. If you know, if the funding isn't allocated at those kind of top priority sectors that from those first call 1 and call 2. If you've got any more detail, Angela, about what you'd like to see in there from the employer demand that you're seeing, again, please do send that over to us.
Okay. Helen Farmer asked, what is the criteria for equity of access to the Skills Bootcamps? E.g., which identities and intersectionality will you address to make sure that people most often excluded, facing most barriers, are included?
Well, there is a question within the application process around how you will encourage and support people that face barriers, and how you ensure they're included. So it's a whole question around that, how you as a provider would ensure that, and that is something we do score against. So yeah, it is really important, and it is in there as a question in the application process.
Okay. Thank you. Maxine asked, if we're helping the self-employed start new business, so it's hard to get letters of support from other companies, what would suffice instead?
So self-employed start new businesses. I think we sort of touched upon that. Yeah, it's a little bit earlier, didn't we? It's other businesses, I guess, doing similar things, and how it's that sort of evidence that this kind of training is needed, I think. Yeah, if you want, I mean, the session tomorrow, Maxine, might be really useful, actually, because we'll be going into a bit more detail around then. So maybe if you are able to attend tomorrow, we might be able to give you sort of a bit more pointers. But I'm just wondering, maybe actually maybe pick up with you afterwards, Maxine. I mean, all these questions and the support we're giving will all go onto our FAQ document, so everyone gets access to it. But I think we'll contact you afterwards, Maxine, see if we can give you a bit more sort of an idea of how you can use that, those employer support letters.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's that evidence of need, isn't it? And that evidence of need is that labour market intelligence, or any reports, or anything that's been done, particularly from Business West and the Local Skills Improvement Plan, anything that they have as well. That all really helps. Lots of thank yous. So that's it for the questions.
Did anybody have anything else? Can raise your hand or put a note in the chat. It's not a problem. Or I'm sure once we get off the call, you'll think of questions. So do email any questions in. Can we just pop our email address in there, Sherry, if it's not already in there? So do email any questions in, and then we will get back to you. And as I said, any questions asked today or throughout the 4-week window when we're open, once, after today, for that 4-week window, any questions you ask, any responses we give will be published on our FAQ document, our website, for everyone to see. Thank you so much for coming today.
One thing, Bryony, just to point out, sorry, quickly before you finish, is somebody's already pointed out that under the Adult Skills Fund, there are quite a lot of courses already available for teaching assistants. So I think if Angela was asking that question before, if you would like to be introduced to Rob Hazelton at City of Bristol College, or Partners in Bristol, I should say, part of City of Bristol College, then please do let me know, and I can make that introduction for you, because then he'll be able to give you some information about the courses that are available for TAs.
Okay, so fantastic. So thank you everyone for joining. We'll make sure we pick up afterwards on those questions we weren't able to fully answer, or for those that we said we'd be in touch with for more information. Thank you all, and hope to see you all on our next launch on the 31st. Bye.